Hello everyone, my name is Aya. I am a consultant at the Center for Social Science Computation and Research. If you have any questions after this video, feel free to contact me and my crew at csscr@uw.edu, and one of our supervisors will get you in touch with a consultant to help you out with this process, or really any other issues that you run into with either your own research, other classes, really any questions that you have with working these sorts of platforms. Please do let us know if you need help, and we'll do everything we can to help you out. For this quarter, I work on Mondays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Wednesdays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So if you would like, get in contact with one of my supervisors at the email address provided, and then we can schedule a time to address some of your questions. All right, and as for the content of this video, these videos, and how to use them, pretty much, first and foremost, I guess the most important thing is that we'll be looking at ATLAS.ti 8 first, and then we'll move on to ATLAS.ti 7 in a separate video. And I've kind of split these videos up so they're a little bit easier to navigate as well as digest. If you do have any questions about a particular moment in any video, when you compose your question, make sure to include the timestamp and the specific question that you have. And then as I get ready for a scheduled meeting, I can prepare completely to address your question quickly and efficiently. I've also kind of structured these videos in a way where I kind of take my time with working, so that you, the user, as you're working in these videos, you don't have to feel pressured to be pausing all the time. If you've ever done a lot of tutorial work on YouTube, a lot of the time the content creators are doing their best to keep the videos really short, which makes sense for quick uploads and things like that and quick streaming. But in terms of working, you kind of run into that situation where you're pausing all the time and then you need to backtrack, and if you backtrack too far, you lose your place. It was my goal for some of these gaps for you to be able to pause comfortably and not feel like you're going to miss something. So hopefully that's going to work out pretty well. Don't be worried that most of these videos are running around 20 to 30 minutes. It's not all content. There's a lot of kind of pauses for working through process, discussing decision making, all of that that I'm hoping will make this sort of experience lower pressure. And now that we're kind of in a situation where we don't have to rush through a workshop in 50 minutes, we can take a little bit more time to really dig into what's happening, whether it's dealing with issues of decision making or just managing the software, a couple of oopses here and there, tricks, all of that stuff. We'll walk through that, and hoping that with this structure you'll just feel less pressured with the speed of having to work through this video. So for this series, we'll be looking at ATLAS.ti 8 first, and then we'll backtrack to ATLAS.ti 7 because of its transcription service, which unfortunately ATLAS.ti 8 does not have. Nonetheless, we'll get started in 8 because it is the latest version, and it's probably the version that you're going to be using and sharing in the most. And then there'll be a separate video for utilizing the ATLAS.ti 7 transcription service. Alright, so we are very lucky to be living in the era of antibiotics, anesthesia, and QDA software. In the era before qualitative data analysis software, this kind of work was extremely time-consuming. For those of you who have already done qualitative data analysis work, you know how involved this is, and prior to software being around to help keep us organized, it was a whole lot of highlighting and jotting down in margins and moving post-it notes around, and just really extensive, even physical work, in addition to the mental work of recording things, transcribing things, and then having to cut them up and physically put them back together to keep these thoughts arranged. With qualitative data analysis software, so much of that challenge of storing things and linking things is streamlined in a way that's really extraordinary. So we're super lucky to have access to QDA software broadly and ATLAS.ti specifically in the university system. One way that you can gain access to this, which I'm hoping you might have been given these instructions already, but if not, today I will be working on the CSDE terminal servers. The terminal servers give you access to a remote desktop that runs Windows 10 and provides access to various analytical softwares, including ATLAS.ti 7 and 8, but also SPSS, R, Stata, MATLAB, QGIS, ArcGIS, so many different options. So this is an excellent resource for you to use. It is, maybe aside from the library, my favorite resource on campus, so definitely hop on to that service if you haven't already. Again, that's CSDE, terminal servers. You can just Google that, and it should be the top link. It's a very easy step-by-step process to get you registered with one of those accounts. So, since we have access to all this amazing software, why should we use it? Qualitative data analysis software is such an amazing tool to have access to, as it helps to streamline basically every process of analysis. You can explore a much wider breadth of data points. Your volume can simply go much higher because it's easier to keep track of. You can also have a much easier time linking coding systems across a variety of document types. So when I say the word document in ATLAS.ti, generally one would think of text documents, like maybe you were analyzing a journalistic publication or a report from the World Health Organization. Certainly, textual documents would qualify in this case. But additionally, ATLAS.ti treats various media types as documents. So, for example, you could be analyzing text from a transcript. You could be analyzing video clips, or perhaps entire recorded interviews, video recorded interviews, audio recorded interviews, audio recorded focus groups, pictures. So many different options in terms of the types of documents that you can feature in your analysis, and you can all store them and access them in one place. And in the process of all of this, it really helps to streamline the synthesis stage, filtering global observations versus micro observations. All of these sorts of consistencies or inconsistencies will start to show up as you build up your repository of codes and apply those codes to each unique document type. A quick note on resources for ATLAS.ti. I found that ATLAS.ti, especially ATLAS.ti 8, is extremely well documented on YouTube, and so much of this documentation is coming straight from the source. The creators of ATLAS.ti have done such a fabulous job of producing bite-sized videos on how to use some really cool functions ranging from basic to highly advanced. This is going to be a great resource to you as you grow and advance in your usage of ATLAS.ti. In this video series, we're just going to go through the basics. You're going to be able to get yourself set up. Your foundations are going to be solid. But then, as you continue with your work and you start to modify your research design, etc., your methodologies, all of that, you'll be able to hopefully be in a position where you can begin to help yourself. You should be equipped well enough to also ask the right questions to find the answers that you want. And ultimately, you can always come to Caesar and ask questions. We are more than happy to help you out as you continue your work. It's always a delight to watch these projects progress, and wish you a great deal of success as we move forward in these lessons. All right, and more or less the workflow of ATLAS.ti. It's pretty straightforward. You kick it off by importing your primary documents. Again, as noted previously, these could be text, they could be video, pictures, audio, really anything that you would be interested in analyzing. From there, you read through or listen to, whichever, your document, and you pick out lines, quotes, etc., whatever it is you're looking for that's distinct in some way. From there, that's where you begin to assign codes. It is not unusual for you to prepare a code book ahead of time, and a big part of this early section will actually be in working with an already created code book, especially as you're doing collaborative work. Building a code book externally can actually be very helpful, very agile, as working with some more familiar and conventional softwares such as Microsoft Excel can really speed up the process of designing a code book. From there, applying comments to your codes. This is where you can actually assign definitions to your code, so everybody's on the same page as to what your code means in context. This becomes especially important if you use the same word, sometimes necessary, for two different codes. Often that'll be the case where a word is being used in one super category versus this word for a subcode, and another super category with another word of a subcode. And if those subcodes happen to be the same, making sure that you have unique definitions for those terms based on their assignment within a larger category, it's really important. Again, that's stored in the comments. Memos are just notes to yourself about what the code means. Could be about what the code means or why you selected to use it in one case versus another code. Really anything under the sun that you could want to note about in your memo. And then finally, the network function, word cloud function, all of those analytical techniques help you to visualize the structure and relationship of your data. For this first set of videos, we'll just focus on managing the code book. The code manager is the distinct software piece that's called, as well as coding documents, and we'll walk through coding text documents, video files, audio files, as well as pictures in this first video series. After we finish up with code books, we'll move on to working with reports. Reports are simply a means of exporting selections of your qualitative data. This is a really nice way to be able to isolate specific quotes under a particular code or code group, and then export that file to a Word document or PDF, whichever you prefer. That way you can then very easily highlight, copy, and paste in a distinct quote or whatever that you find to be relevant for the section of the project that you're working on. Very useful tool. And finally, the last lesson in ATLAS.ti 8 will be looking at building visualization networks. This one's been a little bit more challenging to produce just because the project that I've been working on so far for this is so small. But nonetheless, there should be enough in there to work through the development of a few visualizations. And honestly, once you get the procedure down and then you've built up your own project, as you work through this process yourself, it's going to look so much prettier just because there's going to be so much more action happening in your own work. And before I move on, a huge shout out to my workmate Riddhi, Meta Negerbauer. She is the one who actually taught me ATLAS.ti a couple of years ago and produced this lovely PowerPoint and has given me access to it to share with you. She's such a boss that she is on a fellowship right now, so I've kind of taken over ATLAS.ti duties while she's away. But when she comes back, I'm sure that she would gladly help you out with the project as well. She's an ace, and I do miss her dearly, but she's off doing her talented thing. All right, so let's get started here.